calm. Why don't you take a seat on the couch?
No!
Wait!
No, please help me.
Nature's will is like clean home.
Okay, friends, the movie that will be discussed this time is called Becky, which was released in 2020, and the film tells about the brutality of a young girl named Becky when dealing with a gang of high-class convicts who have messed up her vacation moments. The sadistic behavior of the criminals finally made Becky, who was originally innocent and moody, turn into a dangerous figure, can even be called a cold-blooded killer. The story begins with a police interrogation after Becky was attacked by a group of criminals while on vacation with her father. However, from the many questions from the police, Becky pretended not to know, especially what the criminals wanted. Then the story continues with the incident 2 weeks earlier, starting with the sadistic behavior of 4 neo-Nazi prisoners who caused trouble in prison. The behavior of the prisoners finally made them immediately transferred to another prison, which of course had higher security. However, the prison authorities did not know that all of this was part of the plan of one of the neo-Nazi leaders named Dominic, because he and his 3 friends actually had a mission but had to escape from prison first. Dominic took this transfer as an opportunity to escape by killing prisoners who were not on the same frequency as his group. After Dominic's group managed to escape, we move on to a junior high school student named Becky, who was a regular bully at her school. Becky, who has no friends, can be said to be a gloomy child, especially after her mother's death 1 year ago. In short, Becky was picked up by her father, who said he would take her on vacation to their villa. But Becky looked unhappy because she felt that this vacation was at most just an apology from her father, who was always busy working and never paid attention to her. On the way, they stopped at a convenience store to buy supplies, and soon the father named Jeff watched the news about the 4 prisoners who were rumored to have escaped. While Becky, who was looking for food for herself, was jealous when she saw a mother who was accompanying her children. Then she tried to treat her longing for her mother by watching footage of her accompanying her mother before leaving the world.
What do you think? Scary.
A few moments later, they continued their journey, and during that time also their relationship that never got along and always argued, which made their 2 dogs look moody.
Hold up, you're heaven anyway.
Upon arrival at the lakeside villa, Becky was shocked because her father had apparently made an agreement with a 1-child widow, as well as her father's new girlfriend. Becky finally found out if this vacation was just a front for her father, who wanted to introduce Becky to a potential new mother. And finally, Becky, who did not want anyone to replace her late mother, then decided to leave rather than get acquainted with the woman. Not far from their location, Dominic and his friends who had killed the prison officers stopped a driver who was carrying his 2 children. Then, in a disguise style, Dominic pretended to ask for a driver's license, when in fact he wanted to sterilize this area from people because it was the location of the mission to be carried out.
What?
After Dominic killed the innocent family, we return to Becky, who was forced to eat together with her father's girlfriend. Then suddenly Jeff told his daughter that in the near future he would marry his girlfriend, which of course, Becky really did not accept her father's decision, who was considered to have betrayed her late mother. And after that, Jeff tried to give her an explanation because life must go on and should not continue to be lost in sadness. But those words had no effect on Becky, who was still a teenager, which in the end she chose to go to the wooden house left by her mother rather than having to argue with her father. When Becky expressed her anger, she was even more sad when she found a painting that showed her family's happy moments in the past. And soon Becky found a key that she had just seen for the first time. She also wondered why the strange key was in her family's private home. On the other hand, Kayla, who is still confused by Becky's attitude, has a guest, and it appears that the guest is Dominic, who pretends to have lost his pet dog. Kayla also tried to be kind to the person who asked her for help, but when she saw their pet dog, Dominic suddenly said their dog came from an ugly breed. Of course, these words made them finally upset and asked Dominic to leave his house immediately, but Jeff did not realize that Dominic's tall partner was waiting in front of the house.
you take a seat on the couch?
Seeing Kayla, who was so scared, the man named Apex told her to run away immediately before she changed her mind, and Kayla hurriedly went to the forest to look for Becky, whose whereabouts were unknown. While at the same time, Becky also saw the arrival of two Dominic friends who had just arrived.
Come on, Ty, keep up.
Hey there.
Kayla's search for Becky finally stopped when she crossed paths with two Dominic friends named Cole and Hammond. And because of her panic, she blurted out by saying she was looking for Becky in the forest. But fortunately, Kayla quickly corrected her, saying that Becky was the name of their pet dog. Hearing the word pet dog, the two criminals immediately prepared for fear that the animal would suddenly attack him from behind.
There she is, right there.
Becky was really shocked to see one of her pet dogs shot dead by criminals, and worried about the fate of her father, she also quietly sneaked to check the state of the house. In short, Cole and Hammond brought Kayla back to the detention house while telling her that they had killed Becky, which of course Jeff was very shocked to hear. However, Kayla's whisper made him understand that his daughter was fine, and without anyone knowing Becky was watching the detention, they did. Then Dominic explained the reason for coming to this house was to look for an object belonging to their community. And without wasting time, Dominic started the search by combing the basement in the house. Who knows what Dominic and his friends were actually looking for, whether it was the key that Becky had found earlier. At the same time, Becky sneaked to get her things that were still stored in the room. Although she failed to bring her bag, Becky managed to take her toy radio. In short, Dominic found a bag containing Becky's cell phone, and from that discovery, they finally knew that Becky was Jeff's daughter. Then Dominic returned to tell that he was actually looking for a key that had a symbol, and he asked Jeff to call Becky. Rather than just wasting time because it was revealed who Becky was, then Jeff lied, saying that Becky was out of town with her mother. These words clearly made Dominic start to get annoyed and hesitate. He said this time he would use harsh methods so that Jeff would tell the truth, and after that, the shooting took place. The shot that led to Jeff's leg made Kayla and Jeff confused about what to do. Then suddenly, Becky contacted the criminals using the radio. She also told Dominic to leave immediately because her brother had called the police. But instead of being afraid, Dominic felt silly because obviously Becky's cell phone was on him. Then when he saw the toy radio, Dominic was sure that Becky's whereabouts were not far from their location, and he told Cole and Hammond to look for her immediately. Not only that, Dominic and Apex also used Jeff to lure the arrival of Becky, who was hiding somewhere. After a while, Dominic accused Becky of having taken something that was stored in a box in the basement room. Then Becky said if she didn't know anything about the key that Dominic meant. Well, because Becky mentioned the key, Dominic finally knew that the key he was looking for had been found by Becky. Hearing her father's suffering, Becky was confused about what to do then. While holding back the pain, Jeff apologized because he had made a mistake and always made Becky upset. And afterwards, Jeff told Becky to run away and ignore him.
To run away as fast as you can!
Unable to listen to her father's suffering, finally Becky intends to obey Dominic's will.
I'm coming, please.
We don't have time for this. Call the police! I love you, Becky. Go now! Where's the key, Becky?
Here!
Becky, who has managed to get there and escape again, is currently in shock after seeing the death of her father right in front of her. She also did not expect just because of a key she ended up becoming an orphan. While Dominic, who received an injury to his eye, just realized that his eyeball was about to come out of its place, and his friends were busy helping him release his eyeball, which was still hanging. On the other hand, Cole is still busy looking for Becky's whereabouts using the radio. He also continues to call Becky's name so that he can easily track her.
Becky, where are you at?
It's okay.
Hey!
Man, you're in a fort now. I guess you should have lost.
For the second time, Cole was surprised by the animal he was so afraid of. And this situation was also Becky's opportunity to assemble weapons to face Cole, who also used weapons.
Fucking kids.
Only capitalizing on a ruler and a dozen pencils, Becky managed to kill Cole. Even though it was her first time killing, Becky didn't regret a bit because her soul was consumed by anger. On the other hand, Apex felt guilty because the person he had saved had come back to this place. But for this time, he could not let Kayla go for fear of making Dominic disappointed. And when Apex treated the gunshot wound in Kayla's leg, Dominic, who caught his actions, was worried that one day Apex would betray. Then Dominic told him to kill Kayla at this time because he felt Kayla was better killed than the mission they had prepared so far ended in failure. For this one, Apex will not be able to kill Dominic, but certainly at this time he is confused between continuing or stopping helping Dominic. Apex, who did not want to kill his comrade in arms, made Dominic feel that Apex was very reliable. But without them realizing, Becky came back to demand revenge for her father's death. Becky's plan begins by throwing a radio with the intention of giving it to them, and she also reminds Dominic not to underestimate her. Annoyed by Becky's behavior, Dominic told Kayla to ask Becky to meet him immediately, but instead of helping this one-child widow to issue swear words to him. When Dominic's emotions almost peaked, Kayla reminded him to be careful at this time because she knew Becky was a strong-willed teenager and very vindictive. Moreover, Dominic had killed the only parents Becky had at this time. Before anything untoward happened, Dominic asked Apex to immediately look for Becky, and at that time Becky also made various traps using makeshift equipment.
Hey, Stain.
At the same time, Apex, who found Cole's body, headed straight toward the lake, and he finally managed to find Becky, who was running there. Afterward, Apex told Becky to immediately go away before Dominic found her, but the vengeful Becky refused until finally Apex slammed her. Then Apex begged Becky to end her brutality because he didn't want any more victims from the mission he carried out with Dominic. Apex looks concerned about Becky, who is still small, but has to go through such a painful incident. Then Apex said if he was finished and no longer wanted to help Dominic, he also hoped that Becky would do the same and forget this incident, even though it would be difficult. But unfortunately, Apex's efforts were useless because no matter how wise Apex's words did not make Becky's vengeful anger fade. And afterward, Becky looked happy because her only friend in life had woken up from her stupor, while Apex chose to leave the mission he had not completed with Dominic. When nightfall arrived, Becky began to accept the fate of her father's death, and the pain she felt she made fuel to complete revenge against Dominic, who became the main perpetrator in this chaos. Then Becky took her father's car keys and went straight to the house where Dominic was now. And when she arrived in front of the house, Becky gave the code to Kayla that she was fine. At that moment, Kayla distracted Dominic, who almost caught Becky's arrival, and she pretended to ask why Dominic was so determined to get the key that was not clear. But Dominic did not explain in detail about what the key was actually for, which he certainly felt that his mission was very noble amid his frustration with the modern world. Until in the end, Kayla also called Dominic a madman. Hearing the sound of a car alarm, Dominic thought it was Apex, while Kayla, who was tired of being held captive, immediately looked for something to save herself. After being bitten by the pet dog, Dominic thought Becky was in the car, when in fact Becky was driving the other car. Because she never learned to drive, Becky, who did not know which one was the brake or gas pedal, finally crashed into a tree. Fortunately, the incident made the sophisticated car airbag active and was able to provide an SOS signal to the nearest police. Then Becky continued to look for something to use as a weapon to finish off Dominic, who was still confused. Dominic, who thought Becky was hiding, turned out to be sitting relaxed while singing his mother's favorite song. Then, while asking for the key again, Dominic said that Becky had become an orphan and would live miserable days. But without Dominic realizing it, Becky was ready with a toy gun filled with engine fuel. Just in time, Apex came to save Becky, and afterward he asked Dominic to release Becky, especially since Dominic had gotten the key. And it seems that for the umpteenth time, Dominic is surprised by Apex's attitude that is starting to change and is not in line with him, even though it is clear that Becky has finished off their friends. After being ground using a lawnmower, Dominic finally died with his face gone. Then Becky met Apex, who was injured and was regretting his mistake. Apex's remorse that Becky heard was not the slightest bit meaningful, especially since Apex and the others had made Becky really miserable. From here, the police finally came and took Becky from the place. Then we return when Becky undergoes a police investigation, but she covers up everything related to the key and fabricates events by saying Dominic is a psychopath looking for ancient coins in her house. The police's concern for Becky eventually leads them to plan to place Becky in an orphanage. From the beginning, we never know the big secret behind the key that Becky still holds or why the key is already in her house. But the series of pain that Becky feels has really made her a psychopathic teenager. Curious as to what it will be like for that next discussion, we will continue to the second sequel, and the movie ends.